No. No, that's impossible. She's supposed to be dead.
Finally. Welcome on board, Mr. Carter.
For 3 years, Ethan Carter had lived as a grieving husband. Newspapers called him a broken man after his wife Amelia disappeared during a luxury mountain retreat in Colorado. Rescue teams searched rivers, forests, and collapsed cliffs for days. Her body was never found. Eventually, the case went cold, and the world moved on. Ethan inherited the assurance money, sold their old house, and quietly rebuilt his life. Everyone believed Amelia Carter was gone forever. Everyone except Amelia herself. The first thing Ethan noticed wasn't the music playing softly through the ballroom speakers. It wasn't the sound of expensive glasses clinking together, or the politicians and businessmen laughing near the stage. It wasn't even the giant gold banner hanging above the entrance that read "Welcome to the Hartwell Foundation Charity Gala." It was her voice, calm, polite, controlled. "Welcome on board, sir." Ethan froze instantly, because the woman standing at the entrance greeting guests, the woman dressed in an elegant black gown, with diamond earrings catching the chandelier lights, was supposed to be dead. The room suddenly felt smaller around him. His chest tightened so badly he forgot how to breathe. Guests kept walking past him toward the ballroom, while Amelia stood near the entrance, holding a guest list in one hand and a glass of champagne in the other. She looked older now, sharper, stronger. The softness Ethan once remembered in her eyes had disappeared completely. But she was alive, standing only a few feet away from him, watching him panic in real time. And somehow, she looked like she had been waiting for this exact moment. People nearby barely noticed the tension at first. Amelia kept greeting wealthy guests with perfect professionalism. "Good evening. Your table is to the right. Thank you for joining us tonight." But when Ethan stepped forward, her smile changed ever so slightly. Not warm, not emotional, controlled, dangerous. "Welcome on board, Mr. Carter," she said quietly. Not Ethan. Not sweetheart. Not even a reaction that suggested shock. Just Mr. Carter, like she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times before. If you looked closely, you could see Ethan's hands trembling at his sides. You could see sweat beginning to gather near his forehead, despite the freezing air inside the ballroom. Because Ethan knew something nobody else in that room knew. Amelia's disappearance had never been an accident. 3 years earlier, Ethan believed he had watched his wife fall to her death during a violent storm near Blackstone Ridge. He told police she slipped while they argued near the edge of the cliff. Investigators believed him. The media sympathized with him. And for years, Ethan convinced himself the nightmare was buried forever. But Amelia survived. And she didn't spend 3 years hiding because she was afraid. She spent 3 years preparing. Before we go deeper into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We always love hearing from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because what Amelia did next inside that ballroom left an entire room of powerful people completely speechless. Ethan tried to force himself forward, pretending everything was normal. But every step toward Amelia felt heavier than the last. The orchestra continued playing softly while waiters moved between tables carrying drinks and expensive meals. Nobody understood that a dead woman had just welcomed her own husband into the room. Nobody noticed the terrifying look Amelia gave Ethan before she leaned slightly closer and whispered 6 words that made his blood run cold. "I know what you did that night." Ethan felt his entire body lock up the moment the words left Amelia's mouth. For a second, the noise inside the ballroom disappeared completely. The music, the conversations, the laughter from nearby tables, all faded into the background as his mind replayed the memory he had spent 3 years trying to bury. Rain crashing against the rocks, Amelia screaming his name, mud sliding beneath their feet near the edge of Blackstone Ridge, and then the sound. That horrifying sound of her body disappearing over the cliff, while the storm swallowed everything else whole. But Amelia wasn't dead. She stood directly in front of him now, calm enough to scare him even more. Her expression never changed as she handed another guest a champagne flute and welcomed them inside. If anyone nearby looked at them, they would have thought they were strangers exchanging polite conversation at a charity gala. Meanwhile, Ethan could barely breathe. "You," he whispered weakly. "How is this even possible?" Amelia tilted her head slightly, almost amused by the question. "That's usually what people ask after they see a ghost." Ethan glanced around nervously. The gala was packed with investors, city officials, reporters, and wealthy donors. Cameras flashed near the stage where the foundation's chairman was preparing to give a speech. The last thing Ethan wanted was attention. He had spent years carefully rebuilding his image. Successful entrepreneur, tragic widower, survivor of unimaginable loss. People respected him now, trusted him. Some even admired him. And standing in front of him was the one person capable of destroying everything. "I think you should leave," Ethan muttered through clenched teeth. Amelia smiled softly. "That's interesting, considering you already tried that once." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. 3 years earlier, Ethan and Amelia had looked like the perfect American couple from the outside. They lived in a beautiful suburban home outside Denver. Amelia worked as an architect, known for restoring historical buildings, while Ethan ran a fast-growing financial consulting company that attracted wealthy clients across the state. Friends envied them. Social media painted their marriage as flawless. Weekend vacations, romantic anniversary photos, matching smiles at business events. But the truth inside that marriage looked very different once the cameras disappeared. Ethan controlled everything. What Amelia wore, who she spoke to, which friends she kept around. Even the way she laughed during public events became something Ethan criticized privately afterward. At first, it happened slowly, disguised as concern. "I'm only trying to protect you. You know how people talk. You're too trusting." By the 3rd year of their marriage, Amelia realized she barely recognized herself anymore. Then she discovered something worse. Ethan was drowning in debt. Not the kind of debt people casually recover from. Millions of dollars were missing from client investment accounts tied to Ethan's company. Secret loans, fake shell businesses, quiet financial fraud hidden beneath years of carefully managed public success. Amelia found out accidentally after noticing suspicious transfers while helping organize tax documents one evening. At first, she thought there had to be some explanation, some misunderstanding. But the deeper she looked, the more horrifying the truth became. Ethan had been stealing money for years, and someone was beginning to investigate him. The gala lights reflected in Ethan's eyes as Amelia watched panic slowly return to his face. She knew exactly what he was remembering because she remembered it too. The night everything changed forever. It started during their anniversary trip to Blackstone Ridge Resort. Ethan insisted they take the vacation despite the tension growing between them. Amelia almost canceled twice, but Ethan convinced her it would help them reconnect. He booked a private cabin overlooking the mountains, bought expensive wine, acted affectionate again for the first time in months. Looking back, Amelia realized he was unusually calm that entire weekend, too calm. On the final night, the storm arrived. Heavy rain pounded the mountain roads, while powerful winds shook the trees surrounding the cabin. Amelia remembered standing near the fireplace when Ethan casually walked into the kitchen, holding her phone in his hand. "You've been talking to somebody," he said quietly. Amelia's stomach dropped instantly, because she had. A federal investigator contacted her days earlier asking questions about Ethan's finances. Terrified by what she discovered, Amelia secretly agreed to meet with them after returning home. She hadn't betrayed Ethan out of revenge. She genuinely believed authorities needed to know the truth before innocent people lost everything. But Ethan found the messages. "He trusted you," Amelia said carefully that night. "People trusted you with their savings. And you trust the government instead of your husband." Ethan snapped. The argument exploded from there. By midnight, they were outside near the ridge behind the cabin, screaming over the sound of thunder while rain soaked through their clothes. Amelia threatened to leave him. Ethan begged her to calm down. Then he got angry again, then emotional, then terrifyingly calm. Amelia still remembered the exact look in his eyes moments before it happened. Not rage, decision, and that frightened her more than anything else. Amelia took one step backward as rainwater rushed around their shoes near the edge of Blackstone Ridge. Lightning flashed across the mountains, briefly illuminating Ethan's face. And for the first time in their entire marriage, she realized she truly did not know the man standing in front of her. "You're going to destroy everything," Ethan said quietly. "No, Ethan," Amelia replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. "You already destroyed it yourself." Thunder cracked, so loudly it shook the ground beneath them. Wind whipped through the trees while mud loosened dangerously near the cliffside path. Amelia turned slightly, thinking the argument was over, thinking maybe she could still walk back to the cabin and leave in the morning when the storm calmed down. But then she felt Ethan grab her wrist, hard. She spun around instantly. "Let go of me. You don't understand what happens if this gets out," Ethan hissed. "Do you think those investors care about the truth? They'll bury me alive. You stole from people. I was fixing it." Amelia tried pulling away, but Ethan tightened his grip even more. Rain poured down both of them as panic began building inside her chest. She had seen Ethan angry before, manipulative before, cruel before, but never desperate like this, and desperate people scared her. "I talked to investigators because I was trying to help you," Amelia shouted. "If you cooperated, maybe?" Before she could finish, Ethan shoved her backward. To this day, Ethan would later tell himself it wasn't intentional, that the storm, the mud, and the chaos caused everything. But Amelia remembered the force of his hands against her shoulders. She remembered the look on his face immediately afterward. Shock mixed with realization. Then the ground disappeared beneath her feet. Amelia screamed as her body slid violently down the wet hillside. Rocks tore through her jacket, while branches slammed against her arms and face. She reached desperately for anything to stop herself, but the mud kept dragging her downward toward darkness. The last thing she saw before tumbling over the lower ridge was Ethan standing above her in the rain, staring down without moving. Then everything went black. Back inside the ballroom, 3 years later, Ethan gripped a champagne glass so tightly his knuckles turned white. Amelia stood across from him near the entrance, speaking casually with guests as if she hadn't just reopened the worst moment of his life. But Ethan's fear wasn't only about the past anymore. It was about what Amelia might know now, because after her disappearance, things became much worse than anyone realized. At first, Ethan played the role perfectly, crying during interviews, cooperating with police searches, standing beside rescue workers while cameras captured his devastated expression. News stations across Colorado covered the story for weeks. Young architect missing after tragic mountain accident. Communities organized candlelight vigils. Amelia's parents blamed the storm. Friends comforted Ethan publicly while whispering privately about how broken he looked. And Ethan leaned into every second of it. What nobody knew was that 2 days after Amelia vanished, Ethan accessed her private business accounts and transferred several remaining assets into joint financial holdings. Within months, he quietly sold properties connected to her architecture firm and used the money to cover portions of his collapsing investment scheme. By the time authorities officially declared Amelia legally dead, Ethan had already started rebuilding his image. He thought the nightmare was over. Until 6 months later. That was when Amelia woke up in a small cabin nearly 70 miles from Blackstone Ridge. At first, she didn't even remember her own name. An older couple named Walter and June Bennett discovered her unconscious near a riverbank after floodwaters carried her downstream during the storm. She suffered broken ribs, severe head trauma, and partial memory loss. Doctors later explained that the impact from the fall, combined with exposure to freezing temperatures, nearly killed her. For weeks, Amelia drifted in and out of consciousness without fully understanding who she was or how she ended up there. But certain memories kept returning. Rain, Ethan's face, the feeling of his hands pushing her, and slowly, horrifyingly, everything started coming back. Amelia learned about her own death by watching television. She still remembered sitting frozen on the Bennett's couch, while a reporter discussed the tragic disappearance of architect Amelia Carter. Ethan appeared on screen wearing black sunglasses beside search crews, thanking volunteers for their support. The moment Amelia saw his face, her stomach turned violently. Because he wasn't grieving, he was relieved. That realization changed everything. The Bennetts begged her to contact police immediately, but Amelia hesitated. Deep down, she feared nobody would believe her. Ethan was respected, wealthy, connected. She had no evidence except fragmented memories and a body that barely survived a mountain fall. If Ethan truly tried to kill her once, what would stop him from trying again? So Amelia disappeared completely. For nearly 3 years, she lived quietly under another name in a small town outside Oregon while recovering physically and emotionally. But during that time, she also started investigating Ethan from a distance. The more she uncovered, the more dangerous the truth became. Ethan Carter wasn't just a corrupt husband. He was part of something far bigger. Amelia discovered the first clue by accident. One night, while searching through old archived articles about Ethan's company, she noticed the same 3 names appearing repeatedly beside his business dealings. Daniel Mercer, Victor Hale, Leonard Graves, wealthy investors, public philanthropists, men constantly photographed at charity events and political fundraisers. To most people, they looked untouchable, respected, powerful. But Amelia remembered hearing those names during late-night phone calls Ethan used to take behind closed office doors. At the time, she assumed they were clients. Now she understood they were partners. Over the next year, Amelia built a quiet routine. During the day, she worked at a small bookstore under the name Claire Bennett, borrowing the surname from the couple who saved her life. At night, she researched everything connected to Ethan's finances. She studied old records, leaked lawsuits, corporate filings, and investment transfers. And slowly, a terrifying pattern emerged. People around Ethan kept disappearing financially. Retirement accounts vanished. Families lost savings. Small business owners went bankrupt after trusting investment firms tied to Ethan and his associates. Most cases never made national headlines because settlements were quietly arranged before reaching court. Powerful lawyers buried complaints before they gained attention. Victims were pressured into silence. Some even blamed themselves for making bad financial decisions. But Amelia knew better. Ethan and his partners weren't simply greedy businessmen. They were predators. The deeper she looked, the more Amelia realized her accident happened only weeks before federal investigators planned to audit several companies connected to Ethan's network. If Amelia had spoken publicly back then, she could have exposed everything, which meant Ethan had a reason far larger than protecting his marriage. He was protecting himself from prison, and maybe protecting other people too. That thought haunted Amelia more than the fall itself, because if Ethan's partners were involved, then her survival placed her in danger far beyond anything she originally imagined. Back inside the ballroom, Ethan kept glancing toward the execs while pretending to listen to conversations around him. Amelia noticed every nervous movement, every forced smile, every shaky breath. She could almost hear the calculations happening inside his mind. Who knows she's alive? What does she have? Why is she here tonight? The answer to the last question terrified him most because Ethan recognized the event immediately. The Hartwell Foundation Gala wasn't just another charity fundraiser. It was where wealthy donors, investors, politicians, and executives gathered privately every year. And tonight's keynote speaker was none other than Daniel Mercer himself. Amelia didn't choose this night by coincidence. She chose it because all of them were finally in one room together. The orchestra music softened as guests took their seats around the ballroom. Massive crystal chandeliers glowed overhead, while servers carried expensive wine between tables covered in gold linen. Reporters gathered near the front stage, preparing for Mercer's speech. Ethan loosened his tie slightly, trying to steady himself. But the moment he looked toward Amelia again, she was already staring directly at him. Then she smiled, not warmly, knowingly, and Ethan suddenly realized something even worse than Amelia being alive. She wasn't hiding anymore. A voice echoed through the ballroom speakers, announcing the start of the evening program. Guests applauded politely while Daniel Mercer approached the stage with the confidence of a man who believed nothing in the world could touch him. Tall, silver-haired, charming in that rehearsed political way people instantly trusted. Ethan spent years learning from men like Mercer, men who smiled publicly while ruining lives privately. Tonight, Mercer began proudly, we celebrate leadership, generosity, and the importance of building stronger communities together. Amelia nearly laughed hearing the word generosity, because according to documents she uncovered months earlier, Mercer secretly moved millions of dollars through fake charitable organizations connected to Ethan's financial firm. Money disappeared overseas through accounts disguised as humanitarian projects. Elderly investors lost life savings while Mercer delivered speeches about integrity at luxury events, exactly like this one. And tonight, Amelia planned to expose everything, but not the way Ethan expected. Ethan suddenly stood from his table and moved quickly toward the side hallway near the restrooms. Amelia watched him leave without reacting. She knew where he was going, to call someone. Seconds later, Ethan pushed through the hallway doors and immediately pulled out his phone with trembling hands. She's alive, he whispered the moment someone answered. Silence. Then a calm, older voice replied, That's impossible. I'm looking at her right now. Another pause. Leave the event, the voice said firmly. Ethan swallowed hard. You don't understand. She knows things. How much? I don't know. The voice on the phone became colder. Then find out before she talks to anyone. The call ended. Ethan lowered the phone slowly, breathing heavily while staring his reflection in the hallway mirror. For the first time in years, the confident image he built around himself cracked completely. Because deep down, Ethan understood something horrifying. If Mercer and the others believed Amelia could expose them, then Amelia wasn't the only person in danger anymore. He was too. Meanwhile, back inside the ballroom, Amelia calmly reached into her purse and touched the small flash drive hidden beneath her fingertips. 3 years of evidence sat inside that device. Bank transfers, recorded phone calls, hidden contracts, names, enough to destroy careers, fortunes, and maybe even entire political networks. But Amelia's hands trembled slightly as she looked toward the ballroom entrance. Because she had just noticed two unfamiliar men walking into the event wearing black suits and earpieces, and neither of them looked like security. Amelia's heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. That was the strange thing about fear after surviving something that should have killed you. Eventually, terror stopped feeling sharp. It became cold, controlled, useful. And as she watched the two men move carefully through the ballroom crowd, scanning faces without speaking, Amelia immediately understood why they were there. Daniel Mercer had made a decision. The problem needed to disappear again. The taller of the two men stopped near the bar, pretending to check his phone, while the other positioned himself near the ballroom entrance. Both wore dark, tailored suits, clean earpieces, polished shoes, professional, calm. The kind of men most people would never notice unless they knew exactly what to look for. Amelia did. Because during the past 3 years, she had spent months studying the people surrounding Ethan and Mercer. Men like these always appeared whenever problems needed to be handled quietly. Witnesses intimidated, documents recovered, stories buried before reaching the public. Her fingers tightened slightly around the flash drive inside her purse. Across the room, Ethan returned from the hallway, looking even worse than before. The moment his eyes found the two men, his expression changed instantly. Not relief, fear, and that told Amelia everything she needed to know. Because Ethan finally realized something horrifying. Mercer didn't send those men to protect him. Men like Mercer never protected liabilities. They erased them. Daniel Mercer continued speaking confidently on stage while giant screens displayed videos of charitable projects and smiling families helped by his foundation. The audience applauded warmly after every emotional line. Wealthy donors nodded approvingly from their tables. Cameras flashed. Waiters moved quietly between guests, refilling wine glasses. Meanwhile, a completely different story unfolded beneath the surface of the ballroom. Amelia slowly stood from the reception desk near the entrance and walked calmly toward the back corridor leading to the private offices upstairs. She could feel one of the men watching her immediately. Good. Let him follow. The corridor grew quieter away from the crowd. Carpet softened her footsteps, while distant applause echoed faintly from the ballroom behind her. Amelia reached the elevator doors and pressed the button once. Nothing, again. Still nothing. Then a voice behind her said quietly, "Messrs. Carter?" Amelia turned slowly. The taller man stood at the end of the hallway, with his hands folded calmly in front of him. Up close, he looked older than she first realized. Late 40s, maybe. Military posture. Emotionless eyes. "You have the wrong person," Amelia replied. The man smiled faintly. "No, I don't think I do." Silence settled between them. Amelia's mind raced through exits, distances, possibilities. She noticed the tiny microphone attached near his collar. Someone else was listening, probably Mercer, maybe Ethan too. "You caused a lot of concern tonight," the man continued calmly. "Mister, Mercer would appreciate a private conversation. I'm sure he would. He's prepared to resolve this situation respectfully. Amelia almost laughed hearing the word respectfully. Respectfully, she repeated softly. Your people tried to bury me on a mountain. The man's expression barely moved. Accidents happen. No, Amelia replied. Choice happen. For the first time, something dangerous flickered across his face. Then the elevator dinged open behind her. Amelia moved instantly. Instead of stepping inside, she swung her purse directly into the man's face and sprinted down the opposite hallway before he could recover. Shouts erupted behind her as heavy footsteps thundered across the carpet. Inside the ballroom, several guests turned in confusion after hearing the noise upstairs. Daniel Mercer paused briefly at the podium, but quickly recovered with a polished smile. Looks like we have some excitement tonight, he joked lightly. Polite laughter spread through the audience, but Ethan wasn't laughing. He stood frozen beside his table, watching security rush toward the hallway entrance. Sweat poured down the side of his face because he knew exactly what was happening upstairs. And worse, he knew Amelia would never survive if they caught her alone. For the first time in years, guilt crashed into him harder than fear. Not because he suddenly became a good person, but because he finally understood how disposable he truly was. Upstairs, Amelia pushed through another corridor leading toward the private conference rooms overlooking the ballroom below. Her breathing grew sharper as footsteps closed in behind her. She rounded a corner and nearly slammed into another man wearing hotel security clothing. No, not hotel security. The second man. He grabbed her arm instantly. Easy, he muttered. Amelia drove her knee upward hard enough to force him backward with a curse. She tore free and stumbled into one of the conference rooms before locking the door behind her. Her chest heaved violently as she backed away from the entrance. Then she froze, because someone else was already inside the room. An older woman sat quietly near the window, overlooking the city skyline below. Perfect gray suit, silver necklace, calm expression, and somehow she already knew Amelia's name. You took longer than expected, the woman said softly. Amelia stared at her in confusion. Who are you? The woman slowly stood. My name is Evelyn Ross, she replied, and if you want to survive tonight, you need to stop running. Outside the door, heavy footsteps approached fast. Then came the first violent bang against the handle. The entire door shook beneath the impact. Amelia instinctively stepped backward while Evelyn Ross remained perfectly calm near the conference table. Almost like she had expected this exact moment to happen. Outside, muffled voices barked orders through the hallway, while another hard slam rattled the lock again. We don't have much time, Evelyn said quietly. Who are you? Amelia demanded again. A former federal prosecutor. That answer stunned Amelia for half a second. Evelyn reached into her handbag slowly and removed a leather identification wallet before tossing it across the table. Amelia caught it carefully, eyes widening as she read the credentials inside. Department of Justice. Retired Special Counsel. I've been investigating Daniel Mercer for almost 11 years, Evelyn continued. Unofficially, another violent bang hit the door. Then help me understand why men are trying to kill me. Because Mercer finally realized you survived. Evelyn's expression darkened slightly. And because you unknowingly became the missing witness tied to one of the largest financial corruption investigations in the country. Outside the room, voices grew louder. She's in there. Open the damn door. Amelia looked toward the entrance nervously. We need to leave. We will, Evelyn replied. But first I need to know one thing. Do you still have the evidence? Amelia hesitated. then slowly reached into her purse and revealed the flash drive. For the first time since meeting her, Evelyn looked genuinely relieved. You have no idea how many people died trying to collect that information. The words hit Amelia hard. What do you mean died? Evelyn stepped closer. 3 journalists, 1 accountant, an investigator in Chicago, ruled a suicide. Mercer buried every case before it reached the media. Your husband wasn't the mastermind, Amelia. Ethan was just useful. Downstairs, the gala had started unraveling completely. Guests whispered nervously while security moved rapidly between hallways. Daniel Mercer stood near the stage, pretending to calm concerns publicly. But beneath the polished smile, rage simmered dangerously behind his eyes. And Ethan noticed it. For years, Ethan admired Mercer's control. Tonight, for the first time, he saw the truth clearly. Mercer wasn't nervous because of scandal. He was nervous because people like him only survived through silence, and Amelia threatened to destroy that silence forever. A final crash exploded against the conference room door upstairs. The lock cracked. Evelyn immediately grabbed Amelia's arm. There's another exit. She pulled open a hidden side door leading into a narrow service stairwell. Without wasting another second, both women rushed downward as footsteps burst into the conference room behind them. They're gone. Amelia's breathing echoed sharply inside the stairwell, while Evelyn moved surprisingly fast ahead of her. Who exactly are you working with? Amelia asked between breaths. A small group inside the Justice Department, Evelyn replied. People Mercer couldn't buy. And you waited 11 years? We needed proof strong enough to survive politically. Amelia laughed bitterly. So people lost their lives while everyone waited for perfect timing. Evelyn stopped suddenly on the stairs and looked directly at her. You think I don't know that? She said quietly. I watched good people get destroyed trying to stop Mercer. The difference tonight is this. Her eyes lowered briefly toward the flash drive in Amelia's hand. Now we can finally prove everything. The moment they reached the underground parking garage, Amelia immediately sensed something wrong. Too quiet. Rows of expensive vehicles sat beneath dim concrete lights, while distant music from the gala echoed faintly overhead. Evelyn slowed carefully, scanning the shadows. Then a voice emerged from the darkness. You should have stayed dead. Ethan stepped forward, holding a gun. Amelia froze instantly. For a long moment, nobody moved. Ethan looked completely different now. The polished businessman image was gone. His face looked pale, exhausted, broken beneath years of lies finally collapsing around him. Evelyn slowly raised her hands. Ethan, think carefully about what you're doing. You don't understand, he whispered shakily. Mercer will kill all of us if that evidence gets out. He already plans to kill you, Amelia said softly. Ethan's eyes flickered, because deep down, he knew she was right. You should have disappeared, he muttered toward Amelia. Why come back? Amelia stared at him for several seconds before answering. Because you looked the world in the eye and cried over my death while destroying innocent people behind closed doors. Her voice trembled slightly now. I needed you to finally see me alive long enough to understand what you really are. Ethan lowered his gaze. Rainwater dripped faintly from pipes somewhere deep inside the garage. The silence between them felt suffocating. Then suddenly, 3 gunshots exploded through the parking structure. Ethan's body jerked violently. Amelia screamed as he collapsed hard onto the concrete floor. Behind him, Daniel Mercer stepped calmly from between 2 black SUVs holding a silenced pistol. Problem solved, Mercer said coldly. Everything happened at once after that. Evelyn grabbed Amelia and pulled her behind a parked vehicle as more armed men rushed into the garage. Mercer's face remained eerily calm while Ethan bled across the concrete only a few feet away. And in his final moments, Ethan finally understood the truth. He was never Mercer's partner, only his disposable mistake. Sirens suddenly erupted outside the garage entrance, loud, close, multiple vehicles. Mercer's expression changed instantly. Then came shouting, "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" Chaos exploded through the garage. Armed agents stormed inside from every direction while Mercer's men scattered in panic. One tried running toward the exit before being tackled violently onto the pavement. Another reached for a weapon and immediately froze under red laser sights covering his chest. Mercer attempted to escape through the side corridor, but stopped cold after finding 6 armed federal agents waiting directly ahead. For the first time all night, the powerful billionaire looked afraid, very afraid. Within minutes, the garage flooded with officers, flashing lights, reporters, and shouting voices. Amelia sat trembling beside an ambulance while paramedics rushed Ethan onto a stretcher nearby. He was still alive, barely. As they rolled him past her, Ethan weakly turned his head toward Amelia one final time. And quietly, almost too quietly to hear, he whispered, "I'm sorry." Amelia stared at him silently as the ambulance doors closed. But the strange part was this. After everything he had done, after the lies, after the betrayal, after the mountain, she felt nothing at all. 3 months later, Daniel Mercer and multiple associates were formally charged in one of the largest financial corruption cases in modern U.S. history. Billions of dollars in fraudulent transactions surfaced through investigations connected to the flash drive Amelia carried into that gala. News stations across the country covered the scandal for weeks. Politicians resigned. Executives disappeared. Lawsuits flooded the courts. And Amelia? Amelia never returned to public life. Most people expected interviews, a book deal, television appearances. But instead, she quietly moved back to a small coastal town under her real name and started over again far away from cameras. Because survival changes people, especially when the person who tried destroying you once claimed to love you. But perhaps the most haunting part of this story came from investigators reviewing security footage from the gala that night. Right before Amelia first approached Ethan at the entrance, cameras captured him smiling and laughing comfortably with donors inside the ballroom. Completely relaxed, completely confident, like a man who believed the past would never come back for him. And maybe that's the real lesson hidden inside stories like this. Sometimes people don't fear consequences because they think they're innocent. Sometimes they simply believe their victims will never return. So what do you think? Did Ethan truly regret what happened in the end? Or was he only sorry after realizing he lost control? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shocked you, don't forget to subscribe because the next story we're covering might be even more unbelievable than this one.